On today's show, July 1st is coming soon. What other moves does Brian MacLellan have planned? And your Hershey Bears are on the cusp of winning another Calder Cup.
Your Locked On Capitals, your daily podcast on the Washington Capitals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Well, hello and welcome into this edition of Locked On Capitals. I'm so glad you decided to join me today. As always, this podcast is free and available on all the major platforms, including the SiriusXM app and on YouTube. And I want to thank you for making this your first listen each and every day. My name is Dan Holme. I've covered the Capitals for the last 3 seasons for Locked On and various other outlets before that. I'm also the host of the weekly show called The Capitals Minutecast, available wherever you find your podcasts. You can find me on Twitter. It's at DanCaps218. You can find the show on Twitter. It's at Locked On Caps. And the best way that you can help grow the show is to subscribe to Locked On Capitals on YouTube and comment anything down below. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more as playoffs wind down. The sports stop sporting like we want them to, but this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com/locked-on to get started. So in this edition of Locked On Capitals, we talk about the movement surrounding the Capitals. We already know about the big move of the Capitals trading Darcy Kuemper to the Kings for Pierre-Luc Dubois and what that means for the team. But according to Elliotte Friedman, that is just the beginning of moves that he thinks are going to take place. He thinks that BMAC is going to be very busy on July 1st. What did he have in mind? We'll talk about that a little bit later. We will talk about Pierre-Luc Dubois and his history with Russian players. Maybe that will be a strong suit of his, a rapport with Russian players, Alex Ovechkin. And then a little bit later, we will talk about how the Hershey Bears keep rolling and are on the cusp of winning another Calder Cup. But just to get it going here, talking about movement surrounding the Capitals and the move that we know took place last week, where the Capitals traded Darcy Kuemper to the Kings in return for Pierre-Luc Dubois. Last week, I told you my thoughts on it, that it's a long shot that he's going to be able to get any production. But with that said, I really hope it works out, because if it does, I think that Pierre-Luc Dubois could be a dynamic player for the Capitals if we can get the Pierre-Luc Dubois of years ago that on paper we know that I think intrinsically is in there. It's just, do we have the right coach to coax it out of him? Can Spencer Carberry be the guy to coax out the player that I think is inside of all of that? That is the big question. And before we get going here, let's just talk about Pierre-Luc Dubois and what kind of player he is. We do know that the biggest reason that he was brought to this team was because of the hole at the center position. We know that Kuznetsov stepped away from hockey indefinitely. We know that Kuznetsov got dealt out, and that Alex Ovechkin talked about that he lacked chemistry with the various centers that he played with last year. Capitals wanted to offload Darcy Kuemper because we have a lot of talent, and the Kings wanted to move him out because we were approaching July 1st, and that would have been a part of his no-move clause. So on paper, this could be a huge thing for the Capitals. And before I get going here on other July 1st possibilities, let's take a look at the high water mark for Pierre-Luc Dubois in the 18-19 season at 27 goals, in the 21-22 season 28 goals, and in the 22-23 season at 27 goals. All things considered, not bad. Last season, 16 goals. So definitely a dip. And for a guy that was brought into the Kings with high hopes, oftentimes played on the third or fourth line. So it's going to be quite a grasp for him and quite a step up, because a lot of people already have him pegged for playing on the first line center role with Alex Ovechkin. So it's going to be interesting. So we know that was a big move. I didn't see that move coming. I don't think anyone saw it coming that quick. I know that Jeff Merrick, kind of threw it against the wall and saw if it would stick. And as it turns out, it did. It happened exactly the way he said it was going to. It was going to be a swap for Darcy Kuemper and Pierre-Luc Dubois What is next for the Capitals? I do think as well that the Capitals will be active. The Capitals have signaled their intent to be active during the upcoming offseason. Following the trade for Pierre-Luc Dubois from the Kings, General Manager Brian MacLellan is poised to undertake a proactive approach in shaping this team. I listened to him on a podcast here recently talking about how he sees that this team is getting older and how he wants to see steps of improvement from Miroshnichenko, LaPierre, McMichael, etc. But he also wants to go out and address the blue line and also wants to go out and address by getting another forward. According to insights from Sportsnet's Elliot Friedman, there are expectations of heightened activity from the Capitals with indications that more moves are in the pipeline. What are some of the things we know about the Capitals? They have a tremendous amount of draft capital. Some of that will be used in the draft, and some of that will be used to flip to get bigger pieces. Are they going to garner the response and the oh wowness of a Pierre-Luc Dubois, or are they going to be smaller moves? It is going to be exciting on July 1st. We know that for sure. MacLellan has expressed a clear intention to bolster the team's top 6 forward positions. The upcoming free agency period and potential pre-draft deals are seen as prime opportunities to make significant additions to the roster. If you can take the day off of work and plant your butt in front of the TV, I, of course, will have you guys covered all day on Locked On Capitals, but it is an exciting time, and I get really kind of excited about the big moves that potentially could take place on July 1st. We saw what happened last summer. Max Pacioretty and Joel Edmondson, yay, that didn't really move the needle. What I'm hoping for is something bigger. After the acquisition of Dubois, Cap Friendly projects the Capitals to have $12.935 million in cap space. Additionally, Nick Backstrom's $9.2 million cap hit remains on long-term injured reserve, providing the team with an additional $3.735 million in cap space. The one thing I'm going to say about TJ Oshie, and one of the things that was spoke of, is that he wants some assuredness. He wants some promises made from doctors and physicians that he is going to be able to go and play a full season without having to fly a specialist in from Minnesota to straighten him out, his back out, that kind of thing. So there is the potential that TJ Oshie could step away from hockey if the perception is, his perception, that he is not going to be 100% and he doesn't want to put himself through, well, what he's been putting himself through the last few seasons here. The one thing I hope is he does the right thing and he says something sooner than later. I don't want this to go all the way to, September, October, November time and go, guys, I just decided I'm not up for this. Kind of shooting the Capitals in the foot and, dashing any hopes of them going out and picking up, someone to fill his spot in the lineup. So as we take a look at it, I do hope that if TJ Oshie, in fact, makes the decision that he is not going to play with the Capitals and he's not going to play hockey anymore, he does the right thing and tells BMAC sooner than later that, hey, I don't think I'm going to be able to do this anymore. I'm going to step away from hockey, similar to what Nick Backstrom did, and then we'll have additional money if he goes on LTIR. That is the hope, so that we can solidify this lineup. I think that was one of the things that hurt the Capitals last season, was that Nick Backstrom, all signs pointed to, that he was going to be good to go. And as it turns out, he wasn't. That hip resurfacing procedure didn't respond the way that he had hoped or we had hoped. So it was a difficult position. You had hoped that he would have said something earlier, but by all outward appearances, it looked like Backstrom would have been good to go as he was playing hockey over in Sweden. So I do think that GM Brian MacLellan will be active on July 1st to address the various positions in the lineup. I do think, and I've said before, that I don't think the Capitals are one top 6 forward away from being competitive. I think that they are a few forwards away from being competitive. I'm not going to say that they're all going to be top tier upper echelon, but we do need some goal scorers added to this team. We don't know what kind of Alex Ovechkin is going to show up in camp. If it's anything like last season, he'll get off to a slow start. Not saying that it has to happen this year, but we need to plan and we need more goal scoring production. And we need it from guys that have historically scored goals. McMichael, LaPierre, Protas, even Miroshnichenko, those players on paper one day will be great goal scorers, but I don't want to wait long term. I don't doubt that one day they will be really, really great players, and they are already going in that direction. But I want some assuredness that this team will be better than they were last year. And there's everything that points to me that they should be. I think they will be with some key additions. I think that Brian MacLellan has what it takes. Historically, he's done some really great things for this team. I want that oh wow factor. I think he's up for it. It's just going to be interesting to see how that plays out. What players are going to move out? What players potentially could move in? Keep it locked to Locked On Capitals, especially on July 1st, as that stands to be very busy for the Capitals. All right, so coming up here straight ahead, we will talk about Pierre-Luc Dubois and his history with playing with Russian players. Maybe there will be a rapport. What are his thoughts about playing with Russian players? I'll discuss straight ahead. I love sports. I love them so much, I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games, and sports aren't sportsing like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime, and I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com/lockedon and start making the most of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all the shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you the can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, talking Pierre-Luc Dubois and his history in the NHL and how he has a history of playing with Russians, and oftentimes that has gone well for him. Maybe that will give him an in, if you will, with Alex Ovechkin, a rapport, if you will. And I think that that is key to the relationship, because that is one of the things that's kind of sketched out as I record this in late June, is that Pierre-Luc Dubois is going to be the center for Alex Ovechkin. So if those two can get along and have chemistry and a rapport, I think that will put the team in a good position. The Caps made one of the first major moves of the 2024 offseason this week by trading Darcy Kemper to the Kings for Pierre-Luc Dubois. The Capitals will be Dubois' fourth NHL team, despite the centerman turning just 26 in a few days. So that is the worrisome part as we get into this as well, is, you know, for the long history and the things that we've heard, he's only 26 years old. I guess if there's one thing to take from it, is that maybe he has grown as a player and will be a changed man for the Capitals. So let's talk about Dubois' experience with Russian players. Dubois had an eye-opening experience with Russian players, Evgeny Svechnikov and Maxim Lazarev, during the time in the QMJHL's Cape Breton Screaming Eagle. He mentioned that playing with them changed his overall outlook on hockey and taught him how to play in a different way. It's a different way of looking at things, and oftentimes that helps. You know, if you can see things from a different perspective, oftentimes that helps. And he also played with a premier name in the NHL, a player that the Capitals faced here not too long ago in the New York Rangers, playing with Artemi Panarin. Dubois found a good connection on ice with Artemi Panarin. When they played together for the Columbus Blue Jackets, they formed a strong partnership and achieved significant success, as reflected in their statistics, the impact they had on the team. So let's take a look at that again. Let's take a look at his time in Columbus. In 17, 18, 20 goals, 18, 19, 27 goals, 19, 20, 18 goals. And he only played 5 games in the 2021 season, 1 goal. So that was some of his best hockey that he played with Columbus and also for the few years that he played for the Winnipeg Jets. So that is what we're looking at. We're looking at a player that has a long history of playing in the NHL despite his young age. He has quite a history already in the NHL and has a history of playing with Russian players. So on paper, potentially that could mean that he has a good rapport with some of the players like Alex Ovechkin. So let's take a look at his playing style and influence. Dubois talked about his playing style, emphasizing the importance of creating space on the ice and the impact of having a spaced out game. He also discussed how he adapted the strategies he learned from playing with Russian players to playing with teammates of different nationalities. And it's a different way of playing hockey. European, Swedish, all over the place. We take a look at the players in Russia, from different places all over the world. It's a different way of playing hockey, different systems, different mindsets, that kind of thing, that if you can expose yourself to as many different players as possible, well, I think that can only be advantageous. So his future with the Capitals, with Dubois being part of the Washington Capitals, he'll have the opportunity to play with Ovi. Again, like I think he is going to be penciled in, at least right now, to be playing on the top line center position with Alex Ovechkin, which could present a significant opportunity for both players and the team. Dubois has not played with high-level Russian talent since Panarin's departure from Columbus in 2019. However, he plans to apply what he learned from Russian players to his new team. So, it's a good sign, a good possibility that if he has a connection with Russian players and historically has played well with Russian players, that at least on paper, potentially, that could mean that he'll have a rapport and maybe he'll get along with Alex Ovechkin right out of the gate, and maybe they will set the NHL ablaze as a good 1-2 combo, feeding up great passes to Alex Ovechkin. One could only hope. Anyway, all right, so coming up here after the break, we will talk about how the Hershey Bears are rolling and are on the cusp of winning another Calder Cup. I'll discuss straight ahead. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team. Every day, the Hershey Bears are on the cusp of winning another Calder Cup. It should be no surprise this team was dialed in and played some of its best hockey ever this past season with a lot of great talent, and they have the opportunity now to potentially win it all Monday. And it's going to be fun. Must-see TV, that is for sure. The Hershey Bears are on the brink of winning their second consecutive Calder Cup after a strong Game 5 victory over the Firebirds. Jimmy Huntington scored twice, and Hardy Hamann Octel also contributed a goal, leading Hershey to a 3-2 win. It was a back and forth. It wasn't easy, as the Firebirds play very well at home. Well-attended games. The fans are into it. The game was tied going into the second period, and Hershey secured the win with a late goal by Huntington. Goalie Hunter Shepard made 24 saves to help seal the win. With one more victory, Hershey can clinch the cup at home. Huge news for the Bears, huge news for the Capitals, and most notably for Hunter Shepard, who stands to be the number 2 in net for the Capitals. So let's talk about it. The unbelievable game. The Hershey Bears are one win away from winning their 13th Calder Cup title following their incredible comeback win over Coachella Valley Firebirds. Jimmy Huntington scored a pair of goals, including the game winner, and Hardy Hamann-Octel also made a significant contribution with a clutch goal. Huge, fist pumping, quieting the crowd in Cali. The Bears now have 2 chances to secure victory on home ice at Giant Center. So let's talk about the challenging game. Hershey faced a tough challenge as they fell behind early in the game, but they managed to rally and equalize with Huntington's goal late in the first period. That was the momentum that the Hershey Bears were looking for, as the momentum was definitely in Coachella Valley's favor before that. The second period presented its own difficulties with a significant shot disadvantage, but remained scoreless. However, the Firebirds pulled ahead in the third period, putting the Bears under pressure. Nevertheless, Hardy Hamann-Octel stepped up once again with a crucial goal, keeping Hershey in contention. Keep your eyes on Hardy Hamann-Octel. We saw him in camp last season. Many people thought he would be on the big club last season. I think he is going to be fighting for a spot on the big team, the Capitals. The overtime looming. There was the potential. There was the feeling in the air that could this thing go to OT. Overtime was looming and the tension was high, especially after Coachella Valley's mascot Fuego taunted Hershey's fans. However, the Bears managed to take the lead for the first time in the game with Huntington's second goal, securing a dramatic victory. The team's resilient defense and Huntington's heroics ultimately brought them within touching distance of the Calder Cup. Can you feel it? It's exciting, and I think no better thing than for the Hershey Bears to clinch it at home. Let's get her done. Post-game comments talking here. Bears head coach Todd Nelson acknowledged the Firebirds' strong performance and stressed the need for improvement in the upcoming game. Despite their lead in the series, the team remains focused on challenges ahead and importance of maintaining their performance in Game 6. This thing is not on lock. They could still lose it all. I'm not going to say it's happened, but they need to keep their foot squarely pressed on the gas and just keep doing what you were doing the entire way. With the opportunity to capture the Calder Cup at the Giant Center in front of an eagerly anticipated sold-out crowd, the Bears are gearing up for a historic moment. This could be the first time since 2010 that the Cup is won at home, and only the second time in 44 years. The stage is set for the exhilarating conclusion to the thrilling Calder Cup playoff series. So taking a look at who stood out, in particular, Huntington with 2 goals, Hamann-Octel with a goal. It was huge. And then you take a look at Hunter Shepard saving 24 of 26. I do think that the Bears are in a really good position. I think they have what it takes. They got great coaching. They have great future Capitals players on their team. There's a lot to be excited about, and a whole lot that, this is going to be a good job interview, if you will, for a lot of those players. We know Hendrik Slop here. We know even Mirshnyshenko, but we're also talking about other players on this team. Hardy Hamann-Octel, for example. Huntington, that was good exposure to the brass of the Capitals to say, hey, look at this guy. Look at how great he's playing. And of course, the netminding, solidifying his spot, Hunter Shepard as being the number 2 on paper. I know that Clay Stevenson will battle for him that position as well, but excitement abounds for the Capitals AHL affiliate Hershey Bears. And if you're Capitals fans, a lot to be excited about. That is some great hockey, to be sure, and make sure and tune into that game as it's exciting to see the potential conclusion. I think they have what it takes to wrap it all up on Monday night with this team dialed in. I think the sky's the limit. And like I say, a really great opportunity for these Bears players. You take a look at it. Lapierre has worked on his game. Even Mirshnyshenko has really popped off the page. Excitement abounds as Capitals fans and as Hershey Bears fans. Listen, once again, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals, your only daily year-round podcast covering the Washington Capitals. And I want to thank all of you that listen on the audio side and watch this on YouTube You are ultimately what makes this show successful. When you're done here, head on over to Locked On's 24/7 streaming channel, available on the free Amazon Fire TV channels app and on YouTube. All right, once again, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Dan Holme, and I'll talk to you again next time.